Hello guys, in today's video we're going to be installing and taking a quick look at Windows fundamentals for legacy PCs. Now, you might not have heard of this before, and even if you have, it's quite unlikely you'll ever have had a copy of it. And that's because Windows fundamentals for legacy PCs is a stripped down version of Windows XP that was designed to run on older hardware. And since it was released back in 2006, we're talking about old hardware in 2006 terms, so PCs from the late 1990s, which would have originally come with like Windows 98 or Windows NT 4.0. And Microsoft targeted this at large companies who had fleets of these PCs. That's why the only way you could get it was through Microsoft Software Assurance, which was a volume licensing program. You'd have to buy a lot of copies of that at a time, I think at least 5. So the idea was that companies would have probably large fleets of older hardware that they'd originally bought with Windows NT 4.0 or maybe Windows 98. They bought these machines back in the late 1990s, and they just weren't powerful enough to run Windows XP, certainly not powerful enough to run Windows Vista, which had just come out around that time. So the idea was that this would give these companies a way of extending the life of these older machines, instead of having to buy new hardware and throw the old computers out. And they could do it with a stripped down version of Windows XP that would run better on less powerful hardware. And then these machines wouldn't be used like thin clients. Thin clients are basically diskless workstations that you just use to stream a desktop session and software and stuff from a server where it's all running. So you'll have like Windows Vista running on a server, and that'll have like Microsoft Office installed on it, and it'll have all your documents. It'll all be on the server, and all the processing's happening on the server. It's virtual machines like running on the server, and you basically use remote desktop from a thin client to just connect to that session. So how does it relate to regular Windows XP? Well, it's based on Windows XP Embedded, which was a componentized edition of Windows XP that was based on Windows XP Professional. And it was often found on things like ATMs or ticket machines, even some thin clients shipped with it. The componentized nature of Windows XP Embedded means that, no two installations of Windows XP Embedded have to be the same. You can include whatever you want in it. You can take out whatever you want. So, if you want to take out Internet Explorer, you can take that out. If you want to take out Windows Media Player, you can take it out. So, because Windows fundamentals for legacy PCs was based on Windows XP Embedded, Microsoft was able to strip out much of the operating system. And you could take out Internet Explorer. That wasn't included in the base install. You could Outlook Express isn't included with it. You can take out Windows Media Player as well, international support, wallpapers, lots of other features you don't require on a thin client device. It does, however, support most regular Windows XP software, including even Microsoft Office and Internet Explorer 8. So if you wanted to just install this on a kind of low-powered office computer, and you didn't want to run a server or virtual machines, you could just put Microsoft Office on this, and people using this computer in your office and that would just be able to run Office locally on that computer as well, as long as they didn't depend on anything like Outlook Express or anything that wasn't actually included with the OS. Okay, so now I'm going to get started with installing the operating system. So we'll set up a virtual machine in VMware Workstation on which to do that. And then once we've got the operating system installed, we'll take a little look around the operating system, see what applications are missing, just see how it looks and feels different from regular Windows XP and what similarities it has. So let's get started. We're gonna start by making ourselves a new virtual machine in VMware Workstation. So just gonna go here and create a new virtual machine. Just gonna go away. Just gonna leave it with the typical setting here. Install the operating system later. And for operating system, we're going to select Windows XP Professional, since Windows Fundamentals for Legacy PCs is based on Windows XP Embedded, which is itself based on Windows XP Professional. We'll click Next, and we're just going to call this Windows FLP right here. And for our disk size, we can go with something really small. We can go with 15 gigabytes if we want, and store it as a single file as always. And under customize hardware here, 512 megabytes of RAM is going to be fine for us here. It's a pretty lean operating system. Again, one processor core. And we'll select our ISO image file, which we've just downloaded. Go out right here. Leave this as NAT. And that all looks good. Then click Finish. And power it on. And we'll see right away that it is a bit different from the normal Windows XP installation process, because normally for Windows XP about now we'd be booting into the text mode setup, but you can see actually here we're going straight into a graphical environment. And this setup process is actually quite similar to the Windows Vista setup process, was it actually has the operating system stored as a WIM file, so it's just one compressed WIM image that actually gets extracted and just copied out onto the hard drive, as opposed to the way Windows XP did it, where they copied a load of compressed files and then expand them out and copy them to the disk. So here we've got our license agreement here. You see we've also got a kind of Windows Vista looking Windows logo up here, but we'll say yes to this license agreement. And I want to set up Windows on my computer. And you'll see here another interesting thing. We have an option to select unintended modes here. And this would be for if you were, because obviously this was intended for big businesses. They might want to deploy this to a whole fleet of desktop computers. This will allow them to basically make this thing called an answer file. It basically just provides pre-populated answers to all of the setup questions, and it just allows setup to start up and then, without much user interaction, just go right through to the end. But we're going to leave it in interactive mode right now because we don't have an answer file here. And we're going to type in our product key. And with that out of the way, we can now select our language. I'll go with English United Kingdom here because that's where I am, and that's what my keyboard is for. I'll select my time zone, it's in London. To have advanced things here, we can select our geographical location as UK as well. And here's another interesting part, because you can actually take even more components out of this operating system if you want to pull it down to a really minimum configuration. Because remember, this operating system was intended to be used just for running remote desktop, just to remote into a server that would have a full copy of Windows XP. So if we want, we can go on custom configuration here, and it actually tells us a little space required down here as well. So if we were working with really limited disk space, we can make comparisons here. We'll go into custom. You'll see we can remove additional driver support. We can remove Internet Explorer, believe it or not. We can remove language support, local management support. I think it's things like the group policy editor and security policy editor, probably. Windows help files, Windows Media Player, Windows Messenger. We can take all of this stuff out if we want to. But we'll just leave all this stuff in for now, just so we can take a look around the operating system and see everything that's available to us. We can take out this language support because we don't really need any foreign languages on this system just now. And here we have to manually partition our disk, so we have to create a partition here. We'll just use the whole disk. And we'll click next here, and it asks us to format it. We can even choose the allocation unit size. This is a lot more configurable than the usual Windows XP setup. That just usually does all this for you. Yeah, we can leave all these options like this and just perform a quick format. And then we can just put in the name as well. And type a super secure administrator password. You see we also have this automatically generated computer name. Okay, must enter a strong password apparently. Okay, that should work now. Again, it gives us quite advanced options to configure the network as well. Again, it's probably more aimed at business customers. We'll just let it run with DHCP. If we just click next to this notepad, then it'll just run with DHCP. We'll just leave that as normal as well. It is kind of interesting to know that it asks you all these questions before you even start copying files, which usually this is stuff you'd be asked later on in the setup process in Windows XP. And you see we're now copying CoreOS components, and I've got an SSD in this, so this is a pretty lean operating system. It really shouldn't take much time at all to do this. See, it's copying all the individual components as well. They're probably in separate WIM images from the default OS, from just the bare bones operating system. Already installing our drivers. And here we are ready to restart. So let's click reboot now. Get this Windows Vista logo again here. And yeah, so we're booting back up. You'll see it identifies itself on the startup screen as Windows XP. They never made, I don't think, a separate startup screen for us. We'll now go straight into this first boot agent thing. This is basically, I think, just kind of doing any final bits and pieces to set up now that the WIM image has been deployed to the hard drive. See, I think it usually restarts a couple of times just to install some hardware, as it's saying there, and basically gets the computer ready for use. And then once it's done that, I don't believe there will be any out-of-box experience. I think it does just go straight to the login screen, and then from there you can just go straight onto the desktop. So we'll just let this do its thing here, and then I'll be back when that's done. Okay, and we are now finally booting up properly into Windows Fundamentals for Legacy PCs. You'll see we have the Applying Computer Settings screen coming up here. That whole process going through the first boot agent, it always takes a long time with this operating system. I believe a lot of people who install it end up wrongly thinking that their computers got stuck in a loop, because I think that took about 9 minutes there to complete the whole process. But, okay, finally, so just need to select Control Alt Delete in here, and it's going to make us type out the whole thing, it looks like. So there we go. And that sounds nasty. I think we need to install VMware Tools to get the audio drivers working properly. I don't think I've ever heard it do that. Now, we all got VMware Tools installed in the moment. One of the main interesting things about this operating system, though, from like an aesthetics point of view, just these icons that we see here. By default, and this isn't anything to do with the graphics drivers, this is just how the operating system is configured. We'll see it by default runs in 16-bit color mode, not 32-bit. So if we go into my computer, you'll see these really old icons. And again, I think this is just a result of this operating system being designed for much older computers that would have usually run Windows NT 4.0, Windows 98, Windows ME, and the lower specifications that those systems would have had, just to keep the operating system fairly performant on those old computers. They reduced the color bit depth. But let's install VMware Tools here so we can get proper graphics acceleration and proper audio working. Okay, so now that we've got the OS installed and VMware Tools set up, let's take a quick look at some of the differences compared to regular Windows XP. So first, you'll notice when you open the Start menu that it's much shorter and there's nothing in it. Usually we'd see Internet Explorer up at the top here and Outlook Express right below it, along with a short list of applications. Now, I'd say that this is quite reflective of the fact that Microsoft wasn't intending for you to run any applications on this OS directly, but rather to use this OS to access applications on a server that you were connected to through remote desktop. Now, interestingly, Microsoft chose to leave Outlook Express completely out of this OS, not even allowing it to be added as an optional feature. As we saw during setup, it is also possible to exclude Internet Explorer and Windows Media Player from the installation. However, we do see them in here because we chose to install everything anyway. We can also see that the standard Windows games are not included either. Again, that's not surprising given that this is a business-focused OS. Now, if we right click here, go to Properties, we can also see that Microsoft stripped out the standard Windows wallpapers. You see the only option we here have is none, and we can select the solid color. So again, probably just to save space, because a lot of these older PCs that this would be installed on might not have had very big hard drives. However, aside from that, you'll see that this is a pretty normal Windows XP installation. For example, if we go into Control Panel, we see that it looks pretty much identical to the one that you have in Windows XP Professional or Windows XP Home Edition. All the control panel links work just as expected. See, we can open the Security Center here, we can open user accounts here as well. And if we want to, we can even re-enable the welcome screen that's disabled by default. And yeah, that brings me on to one more thing before we wrap up here. You'll see that if I log out here, that by default, instead of using the welcome screen, we have old Windows 2000 style login prompt. And click cancel here again. The option to require Control-Alt-Delete is enabled by default. Now again, this reflects how businesses at the time tend to have their machines configured. When you've got a machine that might be used by one of about 100 people or something, having the welcome screen would be a bit cumbersome, so it'd be easier to just have everyone type their username and password into the traditional login box. Now, with that, we conclude this little overview of Windows fundamentals for legacy PCs. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to write them down below. And if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe for more just like this. Hope to see you back soon.